If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14. On September 28, 2024, she will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on September 26th, and that his prophetic funeral, in which Trump will sit next to Obama, will be on October 1st. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on the same day as Jimmy Carter's funeral on October 1st. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a direct energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this, and it is believed that this direct energy weapon will be used by Barack Obama when he is sitting next to Trump at the funeral. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on September 27th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on September 28th. God is pointing to these dates regarding these two events, September 27th and September 28th. However, it is believed that more than likely these will be steps in the trail of signs. We should receive prophetic signs related to these events on these dates that will reveal more information as to when exactly these two events will occur. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on Wednesday, September 25th at 3 a.m. This is because of Simon and Garfunkel's first album named Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on October 3rd, 2024. Which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for October 3rd, that will knock out the power grid, will also knock many planes out of the sky. October 3rd, the Feast of Trumpets in the Hebrew calendar, will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. It will be the first of 3 raptures. I am predicting that on October 4th, 2024, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. October 4th will be a symbolic beginning to the 5th trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. October 4th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is possible that on October 4th, Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. October 4th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. October 4th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. It is predicted that after Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as his vice president, I am predicting that Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president on October 12th, 2024. I am predicting that President Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president on October 12th, 2024. I am predicting that Michelle Obama will step down and Barack Obama will become the 48th president on November 2nd, 2024. November 24th, 2024, the 8th day of the Feast of Tabernacles, will be the date of the second of 3 raptures. It is predicted that on November 16th, 2024, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that on November 23rd, 2024, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. November 23rd will also be the date of the third of the 3 raptures. President Trump and RFK Jr. are the 2 witnesses in Bible prophecy in Revelation chapter 11. It is predicted that RFK Jr. will be shot and killed on November 7th, 2024. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, will be on December 26th, 2024. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. All right, welcome to this truly astounding video that will explain a portion of God's amazing big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. I will be talking about the signs that occurred yesterday on September 17th and how it all fits together, so many other pieces of the puzzle in God's big picture of signs. And these signs are also leading to the predictions that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on September 25th, 8 days after yesterday. And I'll explain why that's relevant. And also, these signs are leading to the date it is predicted that the 45th president will die on September 26th. All right, before we continue, just going to interject here. What was just said and this video was recorded after September 17th, and today is September 24th. It is now known that, so what I had just said was that the signs revealed adding 4 plus 4 days and 4 plus 5 days to these two dates. And it was believed for good reason, because for one, the signs overlap, but also God is also pointing to this date here for Kamala Harris. In other words, this will be a step in the trail of signs leading to the death of Kamala Harris that is predicted to be on September 28th. Now, what's going on here is that, and I'll explain, God has revealed that September 25th will be the date that it is predicted that Paul Simon, the singer-songwriter, Paul Simon will die on September 25th, tomorrow. All right? And this, as I'll explain, this 8 days, and trust me, you need to watch the entire video. This is I can't express enough how amazing and important this video is, which is why I'm in a rush to get it right before tomorrow. Okay, it's very important. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the 8 days connection here. And what happened on September 17th was the arrest and indictment of P. Diddy. P. Diddy was brought into a courtroom and read the charges against him by a judge in New York City on September 17th. P. Diddy is important, and I'll explain, but God is using P. Diddy to point to his 8-minute-long video, his music video for his song Victory. And I'll be talking about this connection, for example, to August 15th, which was the anniversary of Victory Day in 1945. This was the day that Japan was defeated. It's Victory Day. It's known as Victory Day, and we're talking about a connection to P. Diddy. And this connection was known ahead of time, and God was pointing to this date with P. Diddy because, for one, he posted his defiant post on Instagram, which was a post of his 1990s video, Victory. And that post was made on the date 4/5. August 15th was the 45th anniversary of the release of the movie Apocalypse Now, which cost $45 million to make. And it's 4 weeks and 5 days to this P. Diddy indictment. But this date was known ahead of time, and this was all realized through P. Diddy back in March of 2024. And then, after it was already realized, then we received the sign on the date 4/5, April 5th, which was mind-boggling because we already knew that God was pointing to the 45th anniversary of the Apocalypse Now movie because of P. Diddy's victory video. Okay, and by the way, what I haven't mentioned in this video and anywhere is that P. Diddy is 54 years old, which also is a confirmation of the 4 weeks and 5 days, and this 4 plus 5 days right here. And this date will be the date that it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die. Now, how is all of this relevant to P. Diddy? That's a good question. Well, as I explained, Dennis Hopper stars in P. Diddy's video. The video is apocalyptic, which made me think of Apocalypse Now, especially since Dennis Hopper stars in the video. So, and he did it pro bono. Dennis Hopper plays the totalitarian world global antichrist figure in this video that's apocalyptic. And of course, Dennis Hopper starred in the movie Apocalypse Now. Now, so that's the connection to Dennis Hopper. Now, how does that connect to Paul Simon? Well, it just so happens, and I just learned this today, because because it has been learned that Paul Simon will die on September 25th, and it was learned that, well, I was wondering how, because, okay, so this video was already made and it already is talking about September 25th. But as I said, it's a step in the trail, and I'm going to, in this video, speak of how it will be the day that Kamala Harris is predicted to die. But you won't be confused when I say that, because now you know what's going on. It's a step. She'll die 3 days later, and it'll be the day that it is predicted that Paul Simon will die. Now, so I had to think about it. Well, how does Paul Simon relate to P. Diddy? Well, then I thought, well, does Paul Simon relate to Dennis Hopper? Because God is using P. Diddy to point to Dennis Hopper and the movie Apocalypse Now. And sure enough, Paul Simon and Dennis Hopper come together in a Saturday Night Live episode. Paul Simon, in this episode in 1990, was promoting his 8th studio album. It's amazing. He was promoting his 8th album, and Dennis Hopper hosted this episode of Saturday Night Live, and Paul Simon was the guest musician, promoting his album that had just been released, his 8th album. Okay? His 4 plus 4th album, if you will. So, the first song on the album released is The Obvious Child. That's the name of the song. And there's a lyric in the song. It's the chorus, actually. And it is, it mentions a ballpark. The cross is in the ballpark. I don't know what Paul Simon is really talking about, but I do know that Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a baseball stadium, and that's actually related to Paul Simon because he sang Joe DiMaggio in his Mrs. Robinson song. There's a lyric about Joe DiMaggio. He sang Mrs. Robinson in Yankee Stadium just after Joe Robinson died. And Paul Simon is known for being an avid baseball fan. And, but I knew that Kamala Harris her plane would crash in a baseball stadium before I even knew that Paul Simon sang Mrs. Robinson in a baseball stadium. The reason why Mrs. Robinson is relevant is because Kamala Harris will be replaced by Mrs. Michelle Robinson Obama, her maiden name Robinson. That's why God is doing all of this. But she's going to die in a plane crash into a baseball stadium in St. Louis. But anyway, there's a lyric in Paul Simon's 4th+4th album, because the 44th president will replace Michelle Obama and become the president again. After Michelle Obama becomes the president, after she is appointed vice president, and Joe Biden then steps down. So the 44th president is going to become the Antichrist and president again through this death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash into a baseball stadium. And that's why on the 4th+4th album we have The Obvious Child, and which is a hint at the birth of the Antichrist. Speaking of which, we have the first omen sign right here, which is 45% of the year to this date. So there you go, birth of the, I didn't even know that till now, because the omen series is about the birth of the Antichrist. Okay, and P. Diddy, on this day that he posted his victory video, was the day of the release of the movie First Omen, birth of the Antichrist. And then we have this connection now to Paul Simon with the Obvious Child song. The next single on the album was Proof, and that's a hint at the prediction that's going to prove everything that I'm saying. Okay, so that's how it all ties together. And also, Paul Simon, by the way, speaking of Saturday Night Live, sang with George Harrison of the Beatles Paul Simon's song Homeward Bound, and that's because Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash as she is homeward bound to her mansion in Los Angeles. And the day that George Harrison and Paul Simon sang together, and they also sang Here Comes the Sun. Anyway, I believe she's going to crash at night, and then the sun will rise over her plane crash, and people will see it after the sun rises. That's so amazing, actually. So anyway, they sang on Saturday Night Live on November 20th, 1976, just after Jimmy Carter was elected. All right? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Carter was elected 6 + 6 + 6 days earlier. I think it was the 2nd of November that year that the election was held. Well, anyway, Paul Simon also is connected to Jimmy Carter because just after this appearance with Homeward Bound, he sang American Tune to Jimmy Carter at the pre-inaugural ball, the day before his inauguration. So that's actually a big event as well. Well, anyway, the day that they sang on the Saturday Night Live, Homeward Bound, was exactly 145 months after the birth of Kamala Harris, the 49th vice president. And 145 is the 49th semi-prime number, which is a number only divisible by two other prime numbers, and God uses these in his signs. So that's some more confirmation for you. Now, also, in the promotion for the Saturday Night Live episode, Dennis Hopper and Paul Simon got together and did a promotional thing for the network. And I don't understand the joke, and perhaps I'll play it for you, but in one of the promotions, they did too, Paul Simon lifts up a newspaper and says the date. This is to prove that this isn't an old episode. I don't get it. But anyway, Paul Simon reads a date. And that's from God, because God uses dates for signs. Paul Simon reads a date with him standing next to Dennis Hopper. It was 2 days before the episode aired. That was November 15th, 1976. And that day is exactly 405 months before this date, the 45th anniversary of the release of Apocalypse Now, starring Dennis Hopper, which is 4 weeks and 5 days to P. Diddy at the age of 54, which ends at 45, and his indictment, which is 4 plus 5 days to the day it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die, and 8 days because the video Victory is 8 minutes long, and it's known for being a long video. It's like a little mini movie, and it's apocalyptic. And Paul Simon was promoting with Dennis Hopper his 8th studio album, which is why Paul Simon is predicted to die 8 days after this P. Diddy sign. Now, there's so much more to say. Trust me, you need to watch the entire video. Okay, before we continue with the video, because this is like an introduction to the video, I just want to run through some things that I wrote to a friend while discovering all of these. One thing to note is the 4+4th album is named Rhythm of the Saints, which is a clue that this is a prophetic sign. And the New Orleans Saints, by the way, won the 44th Super Bowl. Okay, and that's a prophetic sign, which I won't get into, but that's just a confirmation of the prophetic significance of the 4+4th album being named Rhythm of the Saints. Okay, and okay, so as I said, it was 405 months. I mentioned that to the 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now. That cost $45 million to make, and was also the anniversary of Victory Day, and we were talking about P. Diddy's video Victory. Okay, so let's see. The chorus contains "The cross is in the ballpark," okay, because Kamala Harris is going to die in a plane crash in a ballpark, the St. Louis Busch Stadium, in the area code 314, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think. And it'll be a burning bush in Exodus 3:14, a hint at that, and therefore, in other words, God. Okay. So what's very interesting, I forgot to mention here, is that Kamala Harris, her death at a plane crash predicted to be on September 28th, will be on a Saturday, and therefore I believe it'll be on a Saturday night because of these signs involving Saturday Night Live. All right, and so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised even if the crash of Harris's occurs either before or during the Saturday Night Live episode, which claims to be broadcast live. And so if she dies in a plane crash during this Democrat comedian show, because that's what it is, it's a leftist show, and that's going to be quite something for the actors to continue with the show after the news, and I think that's what's going to happen. And furthermore, then we have the Weekend Update segment of Saturday Night Live, and as I'll explain, I think that's relevant too. And so let's see. So there's the second single from the album Rhythm of the Saints. In the video is Chevy Chase and Steve Martin. Speaking of P. Diddy using actors, he used Dennis Hopper and Danny DeVito. Paul Simon in his videos, this is actually the parallel, actually, come to think of it. Paul Simon used these actors in his video, Chevy Chase and Steve Martin, for this video for Proof, as in predictions prove it. And in that song is this lyric, Faith. Faith is an island in the setting sun. I think she'll die in a plane crash after the sunset. But proof, yes, proof is the bottom line for everyone. The 4+4th album is with its song was released on October 16th, 1990. Exactly 6 times 6 times 6 weeks, which hints at the Antichrist, whose number is 666 in Bible prophecy, after the release of Graceland, in which the song Graceland begins with the lyric of Paul Simon describing his journey through the Mississippi Delta and how it was shining like a national guitar. This is because God is pointing to the movie The Shining, with starring Shelley Duvall, who Paul Simon was partners with for 2 years, and Okay, because The Shining is about telepathy. That's what The Shining refers to. And this is a hint from God and the prophetic signs to the coming mass demonic possession that will be triggered by delta brainwaves in the brains of people who have taken the mark of the Antichrist, the pointy thing that will have that put inside them these artificial intelligent components that will trigger the delta brainwaves, which will facilitate mass demonic possession. This is why one of the other songs on the album is You Can Call Me Al, which hints at AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, and I know for someone listening to this that's brand new to all of this, that's going to sound pretty crazy. I understand, but this is reality. It is crazy, and it is reality, and the prediction will prove everything I'm saying. And that is the purpose of this prediction. Proof from God. Believe me, I know far better than you the reason for this prediction. That's why God has given me the voice to give this prediction. I know the purpose of the prediction, and it is to prove what I am saying. But you'll see soon enough anyway that this is the case. But also the point is to prove that this pointy thing is the mark of the Antichrist. In its current form, it does not need additional technology to go with it, such as an additional form of or an additional form of false religious worship. And it doesn't need a new supposed age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why the vast majority of Christians, quote-unquote, have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is because it is in fact judgment for this particular doctrine. And the commonly held objections that people have based on their understanding of Bible prophecy are answered in the must-watch Snakebite video on this channel. But make no mistake, when the prediction comes to pass, it'll prove that these commonly held objections based on their understanding of Bible prophecy are incorrect. This connects Chevy Chase to P. Diddy, because P. Diddy is chased in the video. So Chevy Chase is in the videos You Can Call Me Al and Proof, to prove that the AI is what's responsible for the coming demonic possession that's going to happen. And the P. Diddy is chased in the video. That's the video, P. Diddy being chased. It's an homage to the Running Man movie, which I also explain later in this video, by the way. So make sure you keep watching the entire video. So Chevy Chase on Saturday Night Live, he started the tradition of the weekend update, okay? And it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on the weekend, on a Saturday. It would be quite the weekend update on Saturday Night Live on September 28th. In the show, if the show is actually live. If it is, I would assume Harris would die before the show begins, or maybe during the show, like I just mentioned. Perhaps this is one of the reasons for the Saturday Night Live connections. In fact, I believe it is. Okay, I recall a music, let's see. This is a little bit on a tangent, but there's a famous performer, a musician named The Weeknd, and he actually did an episode on Saturday Night Live and appeared on The Weeknd segment of the show. Well, anyway, and in the movie Proof, there's a statue on the parade float that the two actors and Paul Simon are on, and that's symbolic of the judgment. There's a statue, and she's holding a scale. Okay, it's judgment from God. Let's see. So the date that The Weeknd was on Saturday Night Live was exactly 11 months before The Weeknd did the halftime show at the Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 55, which hints at the fifth trumpet and 5G frequencies that will facilitate the mass demonic possession. Also, I call it the 5G Super Bowl, not only because of The Weeknd halftime show, which I explained in another video. But also Tom Brady, who won the Super Bowl, did a commercial for 5G. The Chiefs scored 9 points. That pairs with the 11 months. And the Chiefs are symbolic of the two antichrists described in Bible prophecy. There's more to the Chiefs that supports what I just said, but that's enough for now. That hints at Revelation 9:11, which is the verse that symbolizes the fifth trumpet and the 5G demonic possession in Revelation chapter 9. The 9 points were scored by 3 field goals by player number 7, Harrison, which hints at Kamala Harris. God is using this player. He is a professing Christian, and he has spoken boldly in the name of truth recently. God has been using this man. Anyway, this Super Bowl was exactly the 7th Super Prime weeks, 59 weeks, after his double doink, his prophetic double doink in Chicago, which hints at the double presidency, second presidency for the Antichrist who is from Chicago, Barack Obama, the double doink. This 59 weeks is also 1 year, 1 month, and 16 days. The 1116th word in Strong's Hebrew Concordance is the word Bama, which means high place in Hebrew. And that's a hint at the double doink that was in a high place, as I say right here. And also the field goal posts in football, the 2 parallel posts, are symbolic of, in God's signs, the 2 towers on 9/11. Again, hence the 9 and the 11 connection here. Now, also, The Weeknd spent $7 million of his own money, which also confirms the 7th super prime number connection to the 3 field goals kicked by player number 7. Okay, so anyway, so this, The Weeknd Super Bowl with the and by the way, the halftime show, he did his song, I Can't Feel My Face, and he had his performers on the field wrapped in bandages, not being able to see their faces, and they danced chaotically and then in choreographed, like in unison, and then chaotically, and then in unison, and then at the end they collapsed onto the field. This is because of the people that are going to collapse after being demonically possessed. Okay, the dancers walked around like zombies on the field. In other words, it was clearly communicating what is going to happen. Now, in Bible prophecy in Daniel chapter 7, we have this very important number of days, 1,335 days until the end. Okay, and that's why this 5G Super Bowl is 1,335 days to this date that is predicted to be the beginning, symbolic beginning of 5G Revelation 9/11 Artificial Intelligence Day. It'll be a symbolic beginning. I don't think that everyone's going to become demonically possessed on this day. Just something is going to happen that symbolically will begin that. Perhaps, probably aliens presenting themselves and being in the mainstream news. But that would be because demons are pretending to be aliens. That's why it's the beginning, symbolic beginning of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm. Well, anyway, that would be quite something, because that's 1,335 days after this very prophetic 5G Super Bowl, okay? 5th trumpet Super Bowl. Okay, so also, if we inclusive count, it's to the October 3rd is the predicted date of the rapture on the Feast of Trumpets, and 1,335 days in that Daniel chapter 9 prophecy talks about it being at the end and people waiting for it and being blessed for having waited till the end of the 1,335 days. And the rapture, okay? So that would be, if you don't know, when God's faithful will disappear and not go through the tribulation of the end times and the Antichrist and be with the Lord in his kingdom, and then return with the Lord at his second coming, which will be on December 26th, 2024. Did The Weeknd have trumpets in the halftime show? Okay. Simon performed, the last song that Simon performed when he promoted his 4th+4th album, Rhythm of the Saints, was Late in the Evening, which is the song known for its trumpets. And yeah. Okay. And so I think that's enough. Okay, so there you go. The following day, after Harris's plane crash. The purpose of the predictions are to prove everything that I am saying in this video. And this is the purpose of these predictions that are from God. God has given me a voice through these predictions to prove the things that I will be saying in this video. That is the purpose. And believe me, I know far better than you the reason for the purpose for these predictions. All right, so let's begin with this write-up that I began here writing to some friends of mine. After his arrest, P. Diddy was read his charges by a judge in a courtroom on September 17th, 2024. Okay, I'm going to assume that you know some things here, like, for example, who P. Diddy is. Okay, this was 4 weeks and 5 days after the 45th anniversary of the release of the movie Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million to produce. This was also 45% of a year after the date 4/5, when P. Diddy made a statement of defiance with his Instagram post of his apocalyptic music video named Victory. Okay, now let's begin just with some basics. This is the big thing about God's big picture of science. There's so much involved, and to introduce someone new to it, it's like you have to explain the entire thing, which is infinite. It's like trying to explain the universe in an hour, right? So there's like all kinds of things that you need to know already. For example, the significance of the number 45. What I'll do is attempt my best to keep this as minimally short as possible while still being able to explain things. Because we are talking about the product of 6 years now of following God's big picture of science from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 6 years, and God teaching and teaching and teaching and building and building and building thing upon thing upon thing. And so one of the things to learn here is the significance of the number 45. Now, the number 45 is hidden in it, the reciprocal number. So, okay, what's hidden in it is the reciprocal. What is hidden in the number 45 is the number 222. And that's because the reciprocal of the number 45 is 0.022 or 0.0222. The reason why that's significant and prophetic is that 0.022 hints at 220. Okay, now 220 is prophetic because it is 2 times 110. 110 is prophetic because it symbolizes the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar, which is the date of Jesus' first official entry into Jerusalem, his official arrival, triumphal entry as the King of the Jews on the date 110. Okay? The second coming would be symbolized by the second date 110. In other words, 2 times 110, in other words, 220. What's also interesting about 220 is that the 220th word in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word for rooster, which is symbolic of Peter. And Peter was named by Jesus, and Peter, the name in Greek, means rock, and in the Bible, a rock is symbolism for Jesus. Okay, so that's... So the number 45, in other words, is symbolic of the second coming. It is also symbolic of the second presidency of the Antichrist. Okay, so let's just begin this again. So this date, September 17th, was 4 weeks and 5 days, which hints at 45, obviously, after the 45th anniversary of the release of the movie Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million to produce. Obviously, God is using Apocalypse Now to communicate that the apocalypse is beginning now. Okay, this date was also, September 17th, was also 45% of a year after the date 4/5, which obviously hints at 45, and P. Diddy's statement of defiance with his Instagram post of his apocalypse music video, Victory. Okay, and again, this date, September 17th, is all about P. Diddy here, because this was the day that he was read his charges in a courtroom after being arrested. Okay, so September 17th is 4 plus 5 days, which hints at 45, before the predicted death of the 45th president. The number 45 is the 9th triangular number. $9 million of the $45 million spent to make Apocalypse Now was spent on promotion. 4 plus 5 days from P. Diddy's indictment to the 45th president's death is 9 days. The death of the 45th president will be a prophetic sign that will communicate that the apocalypse is beginning now. The Victory music video stars Dennis Hopper as the evil totalitarian leader of the world. This is symbolic of the Antichrist, who is the 44th president and who will come to power after the predicted death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. The Victory music video begins with a scene of P. Diddy waking up inside the wreckage of a jet plane on a downtown city street. The plane then explodes. Harris's plane is predicted to crash and explode on a downtown city street, St. Louis actually. P. Diddy's Victory music video is known for being long and just a couple of seconds shy of exactly 8 minutes long. Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash explosion in a downtown area of a major city exactly 8 days after P. Diddy was read his charges in a courtroom after being arrested in a major city in the downtown. Okay, Dennis Hopper starred in the movie Apocalypse Now. Actor Martin Sheen played the president on the TV show The West Wing. On the 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now, which cost $45 million to make, Martin Sheen was in the news for shaking hands with the president on the lawn of the White House, where the world could witness the moment the TV president shook hands with the president. Apocalypse Now is known for the iconic scene in which Martin Sheen unintentionally cut his hand while filming on a mirror and then went with it, spreading the blood, real blood, from his real hand around his body and the hotel room. Also, on the 45th anniversary of the Apocalypse Now movie that cost $45 million, it was news that the suppliers of the ketamine in things, injections that killed actor Matthew Perry, had been charged, just like P. Diddy was charged. These events together were symbolic for the president compelling things that poison people's blood. God pointed to a person's hand because of the prophecy regarding taking the mark of the Antichrist on the hand, which is symbolism for a person's actions. It is not literal. Okay, and the prediction being made in this video will prove it. I don't have time to get into these details and these arguments. It's symbolic, period. The prediction will prove it. That's the purpose of the prediction. Make no mistake, I know this more than you do. Okay, so the reason for the hand symbolism, though, is because Martin Sheen shook the hand of the president, and then Martin Sheen, of course, 45 years earlier, was the iconic scene of the movie is him cutting his hand unintentionally and then going with it in an improvised scene in which he spreads the blood around his body and the hotel room, which, of course, is all hinting at the things that poison the people's blood, because it was also the same day as the ketamine things sign involving Matthew Perry. Perry is also a name rooted in the pear tree, and Martin Sheen in The West Wing plays a president named Bartlett, and Bartlett is the most commonly sold type of pear, as in Perry, Matthew Perry. Okay, all right. So Danny DeVito also starred in P. Diddy's Victory video, along with Dennis Hopper. At the beginning of the video, DeVito is a reporter for Chase TV who says with great emphasis that contestant number 5, P. Diddy's character, was last week's winner and has been in the playoffs for 5 seasons and is, quote unquote, still running, unquote. 4 plus 5 days after a judge read P. Diddy's charges, Kamala Harris is predicted to crash in her plane near the I-55 highway in St. Louis. Contestant number 5 and 5 seasons hint at this. DeVito says these things simultaneously with overlaid images of P. Diddy inside the wreckage of an airplane in the streets, I'm assuming, of Los Angeles. It's an assumption though, actually. And Harris's plane is predicted to crash in the streets of a major city near the I-55. The first scene in the video is of some sort of freaky sexual party that seems to involve drugs. This is precisely what P. Diddy is being charged for. Quote, freak out, unquote, sex parties that involved illegal drugs. Kamala Harris got her start in politics through doing sexual favors for the mayor of San Francisco. There were unwilling victims in P. Diddy's freak out sex parties, and this is a parallel with people unwilling to participate in the evil that the state will compel, such as taking the drug things, INJETIONS, pointy things. The victory video is an homage to the movie The Running Man, the 1980s classic, if you are inclined to think it is a classic, sci-fi movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Running Man. The plot of The Running Man is applicable to our time. In the movie, there is a breakdown of society after an economic collapse. The mainstream media in the movie lies and brainwashes the public. The public is fooled into believing the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys and the state are the good guys, just like today. The public is brainwashed to the point of violence, just like the left has been brainwashed to the point of violence today. In the movie, Schwarzenegger and his group save the day by confronting the mainstream media's lies with alternative media, just like today. In The Running Man, the innocent are accused of being guilty, and they are on the run from the state's mercenaries. Also, in the beginning of the movie, Schwarzenegger's police helicopter pilot character is instructed to fire upon unarmed people in a food riot. When he refuses, he gets cancel cultured and his freedoms are taken away. This is a parallel with our time and the doctors who refuse to go along with the SHOTs. Schwarzenegger's character was ordered to SHOTs, the people in the food riot. That's because SHOTs and shootings are symbolic. The things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the thing that comes out of things and goes into people. The release of the movie The Running Man on November 13th, 1987 is exactly 444 months before November 13th, 2024. It seems it can be expected there will be innocent dissidents on the run from the state and the 44th president on November 13th, 2024. God is using P. Diddy to point to the apocalyptic music video Victory. In defiance, P. Diddy posted his Victory music video on his Instagram account on the date 4/5. This was 45% of a year before a judge read P. Diddy's rights in a courtroom on September 17th. On September 17th, thousands of people in Lebanon were injured when their pager devices exploded. In the opening scene of the video, P. Diddy, I forgot to write, or didn't realize this until after I wrote this. The opening scene of the video, P. Diddy receives a text on his pager. He has a pager in the video. Okay. All right. And then, like I'm saying, he posted his video 45% of a year after the date 4/5. After posting his video on the date 4/5, 45% of a year later was the day of the P. Diddy courtroom prophetic sign on the same day as the explosions of pagers in Lebanon. Okay. In the opening scene also of the music video, P. Diddy escapes an explosion. So yes, right after he gets The text on the pager that in the video says, "Get out. Get out of this plane that he's in." And then he gets out, and right as he jumps out of it, it explodes. So we have a combination of a pager and an explosion in the video. And then 45% of a year after he posted the video on the date 4/5 was the day of the explosions in Lebanon from pagers. Okay. Also on the date 4/5, the day that P. Diddy posted his Victory music video, there was a rare 4.8 magnitude earthquake near Lebanon, New Jersey, that shook the downtown streets of New York City. Also on 4/5, the movies Monkey Man and First Omen were released. Dennis Hopper starred in P. Diddy's apocalyptic music video and in Apocalypse Now, the movie. On the 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now, the movie that cost $45 million, God pointed to blood and the things through Martin Sheen and Matthew Perry, as I have explained. The movie Monkey Man and First Omen hint at the Antichrist and monkeypox, because the movie First Omen is the prequel to the movie Omen, the 1976 movie about the birth of the Antichrist. The Biden administration, and speaking of the birth, actually, there was the explosion in Lebanon, Beirut, on the birth date of the Antichrist. Wow, that actually connects here too. I didn't realize till just now. I'll show you in a second here. The Biden administration declared monkeypox to be a national health emergency on August 4th, 2022, the birthday of the Antichrist, which was exactly 2 years after the explosion in Beirut, Lebanon, on the birthday of the Antichrist. Which is why on that day, a couple, as in two people, that were married that day, and a third person, which hints at 2 and 3, the number that God uses to point to the Antichrist, the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school, these 3 people, 2 and 3, died when lightning, which is what the name Barak means in Hebrew, struck them outside the White House. As is typical, this has officially become more than anticipated and too much for a write-up, and a diagram is necessary. So I'm going to get into that diagram now. All right, this is the date we are focused on here. Yesterday, September 17th, 2024, the day that P. Diddy was indicted and read his rights in a courtroom, and the day of the exploding pagers that injured thousands of people in Lebanon. And I believe, at least in the last report that I am aware of, 9 people died, and that's 4 plus 5. But regardless. So what I was just talking about is this connection right here, this 45.08%. This 0.8% would be a hint at the 8-minute long P. Diddy video that he posted on the state, which confirms the 8 days to the date of Harris's plane crash. Okay? And so again, in the video, the opening of the video is P. Diddy receiving a text on his pager to get out of the plane, and then it explodes, and then we have this 45% of a year after the state 4/5 when the pagers explode in Lebanon. Okay? Which was 4 years and 44 days after the 44th president's birthday and the explosion in Lebanon on August 4th, 2020. Now, what I also was talking about here is this 4 weeks and 5 days connection, which also hints at 45, to August 15th, which was the day that the 90-foot Monkey Man statue was unveiled. Oh, I forgot to add here that this was the date of the release of the movie Monkey Man and First Omen. Okay? That's why also 4 weeks and 5 days, which also hits at 45, was the unveiling of the 90-foot Monkey Man statue that was in or is in Harris County, which hints at Kamala Harris. This was the same day this was the 45th anniversary of the release of Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million to make. This date was known since this time, actually, since April or even late March. August 15th was known to be the important date. and that it was the 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now. This was all discovered back in March when P. Diddy's homes were first raided. It inspired me to look into P. Diddy, which was when I discovered his victory video, which then was realized it was a prophetic sign, which then led to Dennis Hopper, who stars in Apocalypse Now, and then it was led to realize that this August 15th would be the 45th anniversary of this movie, and it cost $45 million to make, and on and on. But now we have all this confirmation, including this 4 weeks and 5 days, which is why this is even more stunning, because this date was known ahead of time because of the 45 significance of it. Oh, and also August 15th was the anniversary of Victory Day, when World War II was won in 1945. Oh, and that's victory, as in P. Diddy's video Victory. I actually hadn't realized that until just now. It's so obvious, right? Why didn't I realize that until just now? Maybe I did and I forgot. Because this is Victory Day, and we were talking about P. Diddy's victory video. Oh, wow. Okay. So, also on this day, as I explained, Martin Sheen, who played the president on The West Wing, shook hands with the president on the White House lawn so that the world could see the moment. And that's because God was pointing to the hand that Martin Sheen cut in the movie Apocalypse Now, which points to the blood. And that's why on the same day, Matthew Perry was in the news, because of the people that supplied him with the things were arrested. All right. Now, in Los Angeles, near where Kamala Harris's home is. Okay, and that's why 4 + 5 days later is the death of the 45th president, and and on and on. But okay, now what I want to explain next is this theme of monkeypox. That's what we're getting at here. God is confirming the significance of monkeypox, which is what is described in Revelation chapter 16. This is the real deal here, and it isn't. This is very serious. Monkeypox, although it doesn't seem like it right now, is very serious. God is communicating this in an overwhelming way. And that's the purpose of these predictions in this video. Now, to prove this some more, so Revelation 16 talks about the sores that people receive who have taken the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing. Well, how can that happen? Well, the thing is, the pointy thing, has destroyed people's immunities. And so they're susceptible to getting these diseases that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten, and diseases are susceptible to be spread that otherwise wouldn't have been spread, because their immune systems have been decimated by the poison that they took in the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing. But it was all prophesied. It's all spiritual judgment. It's in Revelation chapter 16, the sores. Okay? And so that's why, because the Pope is the first of the two Antichrists who enforce the mark of the Antichrist. And that's why the Pope's birthday, as in first omen, right? The birth of the Antichrist, which, by the way, I read the plot of this. It takes place in Rome. The birth of the Antichrist in Rome. And it involves Catholicism, of course. That's very interesting, given that we're connected to the birth date of this Antichrist here, one of the two. We're talking about the birth dates of the Antichrist, because we've already talked about briefly the birth of this Antichrist, the birth date. Okay, so this is 7 months and 29 days, which hints at the number 729, which is equal to 9 times 9 times 9. The most important number in God's big picture of signs is the number 9, is from the Bible. It symbolizes God's judgment. This is why it's 9 + 9 + 9, connect symbolically to the 90-foot monkey man statue, which is 4 weeks and 5 days, which is 45, which is the 9th triangular number. Also 4 + 5 = 9. Okay, this is also 9 months right here. This confirms, and this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses as confirmed to confirm the matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different than unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And so this is the second witness. This 9 months confirms this 9 + 9 + 9. Okay, it's also 5 months and 4 days, which hints at 45. Now, it's also, this connection, well, let's just go through this here. What happened on this date was on the Pope's birthday, where we had a prophetic sign, which was the lightning, because that's in the Bible, symbolic of the Antichrist. Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. Lightning came from heaven, struck the statue of Peter in the home of the Antichrist. In Argentina, in the home state of Argentina, which is where Pope Francis presided over as a cardinal, as a bishop, before he became a pope. Okay? So he's from this place, and that's where this statue was, this Peter statue. Peter's symbolic of the Catholic Church claims that the popes are descendants of Peter, but the lightning struck the statue and it knocked the halo behind Peter's head right off. And speaking of lightning, right now as I'm recording this very second, and there hasn't been any lightning today before this moment, lightning just struck. Lightning just struck outside my room here, and maybe you heard the thunder in the microphone, maybe not though, maybe the microphone didn't pick that up. But there was thunder and lightning, or there's another lightning strike just now. So I'm speaking about lightning and this prophetic sign here, and lightning is happening as I'm speaking. And it hadn't happened before now. Okay, so this lightning struck the statue, which knocked the halo from behind Peter's head off, which was symbolic of the Pope not being a righteous man. Also, the lightning struck the right hand of the Pope, the statue of Peter, and melted the hand right off. The hand was holding the key. That's because the Vatican is what's being described in Revelation chapter 9 with the key opening the bottomless pit. Because Catholicism isn't the Bible. It isn't a legitimate denomination of Christianity. God absolutely hates Catholicism, which is pagan religion wrapped in mixed with Christianity and the Bible as a form of deception and a form of the wolf in sheep's clothing. That's not to say that no Catholics will be saved. If they are, though, it will be in spite of their Catholicism, not because of it. And anyway, the Vatican is symbolized, God absolutely hates the Vatican. The Vatican is symbolized by keys, and it is the key that opens the bottomless pit. And that's because the Antichrist will open the bottomless pit, and the demons will come out. Now, what that is an allegory for is when demons pretend to be aliens and the Pope announces that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. And it is judgment for those that believe in the possibility of aliens, because obviously if they're a Christian, they wouldn't believe such a thing, and therefore if they do believe such a thing, that aliens are possible, they aren't actually Christians, because God became a man and died for the sins of men. He didn't hopscotch around the universe becoming aliens and die on other planets for the sins of aliens on other planets, etc. The center of God's creation is man. That's the biblical worldview, and one doesn't have a biblical worldview if they believe in aliens. And as 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 describes, we get the deception we ask for. The world is asking for the deception of aliens pretending to be demons. And so that's why, and the Pope will lead that. And so anyway, there you have it. Also, this was the day. Oh, and the point here is that December 17th wasn't only the Pope's birthday. It was the day that the Vatican was announcing the acceptance of homosexual unions. Okay? And 5 months is prophetic in the Bible. The flood lasted for exactly 5 months. Exactly 5 months later, we get May 17th, 2024, and another major announcement by the Vatican. In other words, these are the two major announcements, and they are coincidentally exactly 5 months apart, because it isn't a coincidence, it's designed by God. And on that day was the announcement that only the Vatican, only the Pope, has the authority to confirm and declare supernatural phenomena. For example, apparitions of Mary and other things that are coming, like, for example, demons pretending to be aliens, etc. Okay, and all Mary ghosts in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. All you need to do is have a biblical understanding, or have a basic understanding of the gospel, which most Catholics don't have because they don't read the Bible. for one thing. And if they do, they're brainwashed by the Catholic propaganda. But everything that the Mary ghosts have said are clearly, obviously contradictory to the gospel. It's wicked deception, and for those who believe it, for those that worship Mary, which is pagan religion. It's inherited from the pagan worship of the fertility goddess, Ishtar, Aphrodite, Isis, etc. Okay, so then we have the 4 months here, which is also 2 + 2 months, and the number 22 in God's signs is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, because in Ezekiel, the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist would have been a Tav mark, the last letter and 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book and the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. And so this together, though, gives us 9 months, but also, and the number 9 months, Jesus, when his disciples asked for the signs of his return, Jesus replied with a metaphor of birth pains, and the average human gestation period is 9 months. And so also it's int at 45, okay, as I explained. So we have this now explained here. Let's go down here to what's going on here, which is this Lebanon sign, because we had the explosion of the pagers in Lebanon. And and the 4.5 I forgot to mark here was the 4.8 magnitude earthquake in Lebanon, which hit the 48th president, but it was in Lebanon, New Jersey, and that shook the downtown streets of New Jersey. That was also on this date 4.5 here. And that connects with 45% of the year from the date 4.5 to the exploding pagers in Lebanon. Now, this 4 years and 44 months also gets us back to this explosion in Lebanon, which was the fertilizer silo storage facility that exploded in the harbor of Beirut. There's so much more to say to that. I've explained it in other videos, and I don't have time to refresh my memory of the prophetic significance of all this. But in God's signs, God pairs the numbers 9 and 44 together, as the 44th president became the president in 09. That's why, for example, here it is exactly 9 + 9 + 9 months, years prior to this explosion on the Antichrist 44th president's birthday to this date here, when was the famous or infamous brawl, one of the biggest brawls, one of the most, probably the most infamous brawl in baseball history, bench clearing brawl, when the teams of the Dallas baseball team and the Chicago baseball team emptied into the field and started fighting each other. This was instigated when player number 23 charged the mound of the strikeout king, which hints at the Antichrist king who wore jersey number 23 in high school. This player, 23, was from Chicago, and so is the Antichrist from Chicago. Furthermore, Michael Jordan wore number 23 in Chicago, and that's also why, because it's pointing to Barack Obama, who also played basketball and is from Chicago. Now, the name Nolan Ryan in Irish means noble king, and that's God uses pictures on the pitching mound to symbolize the Antichrist on the Temple Mount in Bible prophecy. And so that's why this player, number 23, charged the mound. But it was Chicago versus Dallas. Dallas in God's sign is symbolic of the church. Chicago is symbolic of the Antichrist. This is symbolic of the civil war between the left and the right, the conservatives and the unrighteous, the Democrats and the evil Democrats. And so that's why this civil war brawl here. And it's also pointing to the coming politicized genocide of the left of the right. Just like the Rwanda genocide, which also happened in this time frame, and it's all connected, and I don't have time to refresh my memory on how that all connects. And so anyway, that gets us back here. Now, so this Lebanon explosion is exactly 4 + 4 + 4 + 4 + 4 + 4 months. God repeats the number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. We have a 44 and a 44 and 44, basically, from this date to this date here, August 4th, 2022, also Barack Obama's birthday. When I explained earlier, the lightning struck the people outside the White House. It was a couple that had just been married, so 2, and then a third person, 3, so 23, which is the Antichrist who wore jersey number 23 and was in the White House. Now, this was the day that monkeypox was declared a national health emergency. I predicted this 7 days ahead of time. I said on July 28th, which is not marked in this diagram, unfortunately, that I said, and I documented that in videos, that 7 days later on August 4th would be the day of the Biden declaring a national health emergency for monkeypox. That's because I also predicted July 28th, 2022 ahead of time. I predicted this date since April 10th, 2022. 110 days ahead of time, I predicted that on July 28th, 2022 would be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. This was before monkeypox. I hadn't even heard of monkeypox. Neither had most people. It wasn't in the news. It wasn't a thing back on April 10th, 2022. All I knew is that there would be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. And then on September 28th, 2022, that's exactly what happened. The first city, the first major city in America and the first state, San Francisco and New York State, declared health emergencies for monkeypox. Okay, I predicted that in advance. How did I know that? Well, on April 9th, which I also knew ahead of time to be a significant thing, and I also thought that it would be the day of the new pandemic ahead of time because of this connection, which I'll explain in a second. But on April 9th, 2022, vandalism, the spiritual enemy of Islam, vandalized the tomb of Joseph in the West Bank. Joseph died at the age of 110. This was known, this April 9th date was known in advance because of this 110 weeks connection. And so I figured 110 days later would be it. And then I had other things to confirm the analysis, other connections. And so that's how I knew July 28th, 2022. Okay, well, also on this day, on April 9th, 2022, Boris Johnson walked the empty streets of Kiev with the 44-year-old leader of Ukraine that God is using as Antichrist symbolism, the first Jewish leader of Ukraine who was 44 for the entire first year of the war because he had just turned 44 right before the war began. And at the beginning of the war, Ukraine was made up of 44 million people. God is using this man, the first Jewish leader, to hint at the first black president, the first affirmative action president, who was the 44th president. Now, Boris Johnson, in 2020, went into the hospital, into intensive care, 10 days after he tested positive, and that was when 10,000 people were affirmed to have COVID, the CVD disease, after having tested. And the question was on that day, who would be controlling 10 Downing Street? And so this 10 days of after having tested positive was all about the 10 days of testing of a Christian's faith described in Revelation chapter 2. Now, Boris Johnson, well, that gets into something else too, because this was the day of the video posted of Brother Philip and his 10 cities in 10 days video, which he explained in that video. And that was a sign of Jonah and John the Baptist. That's why Boris Johnson and these 10s. Oh, all right, that's enough there. But the point is that this was all about the CVD disease and the thing, the pointy thing, the mark of the Antichrist. And that's why on this date here, Boris Johnson was walking the empty streets, because the 10 cities in 10 days, Brother Philip's video, was all about him traveling across the nation at the height of the lockdowns in the empty streets of the downtown cities, 10 cities in 10 days. That's why Boris Johnson walked the empty streets of Kiev with the 44-year-old leader of Ukraine. It's amazing. So that was 110 weeks exactly after this date, which was one of the official symbolic starting days of the CVD disease, because this was when God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs, trumpeted the first cases. And it was 22 cases, and this was trumpeted at 2 p.m. That's because it's 2:22 here, and the number 22, as I mentioned, symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. Now, so it's 110 weeks to the date of the vandalism of Joseph's tomb, and Joseph died at the age of 110. And there's more to that, but that's enough. So that's giving you some background here to Boris Johnson. Now, this gets us up to here, which is also a Boris Johnson sign. This was the day that he resigned, on the date 7/7. This was exactly, I think it was 4 times 4 years after, 2022, and it was 5. I think it was actually 17 years, which is the 7th prime number, which is more confirmation for the 7/7. And in God's signs, God uses 3 sets of 7 because of the symbolic 3 sets of 7 that the Israelites enacted when they marched around the walls of security of Jericho before the walls of security collapsed, and they were led by Joshua, who died at the age of 110. And what I'm talking about 17 years earlier exactly was the the London bombings. Okay, the big event, the London bombings, the London 9/11. And so 17 years exactly, because it was 2005, and so it was 2000, so it's 17 years, seventh prime number, it gets us to the date 7/7, and it's a sign involving the Prime Minister of the UK in London, in front of 10 Downing Street, come to think of it too, because His prior sign was all about 10 Downing Street, because who would be controlling while he's in the intensive care, right? Well, that's all about the disease. And what we had on this day was the announcement by the Biden-Harris administration of 144,000 more monkeypox things, in pointy things, okay? 144,000 is an extremely prophetic number in the book of Revelation. All right, and that's, okay, so, and Boris Johnson is all about the symbolism for this thing because of the Boris Johnson intensive care sign that I just explained. Now, this is the 3 sets of 7 because it was exactly 17 years, the seventh prime number to this date 7/7, but it is also 7 + 7 + 7 days to the date of July 28th, which was the day of another UK sign, which was the day of the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, which involved a large fire shooting mechanical bull, which is completely pagan. This is the symbol of paganism in the Bible, the bull, the golden calf at the foot of the Mount Sinai, the rebellion against God. And this was a opening ceremony sign. It's symbolic of the beginning of the Antichrist system, the Antichrist period. And in the Bible, in Bible prophecy, the number 2,520 is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. That's why from this amazing July 28th day, again, the date that I knew ahead of time and knew to be the beginning of a symbolic beginning of a new pandemic, it was known ahead of time on this day. And this was also the day of the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games involving the bull, which is a prophetic sign. And it's 25 months and 20 days to this date here, this P. Diddy sign we were talking about, which is all about the things because of the connections that I'm talking about to monkeypox with P. Diddy that I've already explained. And the things because of Matthew Perry and things like that, and Martin Sheen. You follow me? You getting this? July 28th was also the second day, was a day of epic flooding in St. Louis. Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash in St. Louis, and actually the flooding was in the part of St. Louis, the downtown part, where the Gateway Arch is, because in the Bible, judgment on a people or a nation symbolically begins at the gate, and that's why she'll crash at the Gateway Arch. And anyway, that's where the flooding was on July 28th. That's why the 7 days. That's why I knew 7 days, because of this flooding here. This wasn't the only flooding. There was other floodings in the other states. And on the day that the other New York State and the San Francisco declared monkeypox to be a health emergency, that I knew ahead of time would happen. Anyway, in the Bible, the flood began after a 7-day warning. And that's why I knew 7 days later it would be the day that the White House would declare that monkeypox is a health emergency, and that's exactly what happened. And so that's why this 25 months and 20 days, it hints at the number 2,520, which is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. And that's why we had the Antichrist beginning sign of the UK sign, which was 7 + 7 + 7 days after the Boris Johnson UK sign, which tied into the monkeypox because of the announcement of the additional 144,000 things. Now, this date here, this 7/7 date, and the announcement of the monkeypox things is exactly 220.00% of a year to this P. Diddy sign and the monkeypox signs connections we're talking about. That obviously hints at the number 22, as I explained, is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, the thing, the things, the pointy things. Okay, some just quick confirmation here. It was exactly 444 days to this date when Harris was in High Point, North Carolina, promoting at an electric bus company, promoting her and Biden's infrastructure package for $2.3 trillion. That hints at the number 23, and God pairs the number 23 and 44 together to confirm his signs and connections, because the 44th president was the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. And that was the first day of the helicopter flying on Mars, the first flight outside of Earth. And helicopters God uses in his signs because they are symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, because of the X of the rotor blades. God is using X's in his signs to symbolize the mark of the Antichrist. And that's because a pair of chromosomes is an X, and the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes. And that's why the first flight on this day, and why it connects to the monkeypox things, okay? The mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing. Okay, and okay. Now, there's more to all of this. High Point, because it symbolizes Bama. The name Bama in Hebrew means high place, High Point, North Carolina. Electric Bus Company, it's lightning. Barack Obama means lightning from heaven, lightning from high place, actually. And so Jesus said in Luke 10:18 that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, and the name Barack Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak means lightning in Hebrew, and Bama means high place, which is in the Bible a metaphor for heaven. As for example, Lucifer fell from the high place. Also in the Bible, the high place is a metaphor for, or a euphemism for, the false religious worship that the Jews would do on tops of mountains. And so the name Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, knowing that it would confuse us, or he revealed the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. Now, this date here, April 19th, 2021, is exactly 28 years after this event in the 28th state, which was the Waco, Texas massacre, the burning of the compound, and the invasion. This was the day that, for the first time since the Revolutionary War, that the state attacked its own citizens. Okay? And that's because that's what's coming with the Antichrist and the Antichrist system. The state will be attacking its own citizens using the military. I should say this was the first time that the military attacked its own citizens. There's more to, obviously, Waco. I can't get into it in this video. It's a massive story. It'd take 2 hours to really explain it. If you don't know the truth about Waco, you don't know the truth. Because the mainstream media narrative isn't the truth. It's very easy to find, though. You just need to watch, for example, the testimonies in Congress. It's not like an elaborate, obscure conspiracy theory. It's all out there, just like the truth is for many things. But most people don't know the truth about Waco and how it was evil and all a lie. The lie of the media, just like, as I was saying, the movie Running Man. The movie Running Man, actually, with the lies and about the truth about what happened, so it's all a parallel. Waco is a foreshadow of what's coming, and it involves the lies from the media. That's the thing about Waco. It's all a lie in the media. And it's a persecution of a religious minority. That's the symbolism here, too. And so that's what's coming. Bible prophecy talks about this, the persecution of God's faithful. And that won't mean that it's the non-Christians versus Christians. No. Quote-unquote Christians will be also part of the system that takes down and persecutes and chases and runs after the true Christians. Okay? As has been already happening, for that matter, because there are plenty of people that are, quote-unquote, call themselves Christians that have already been doing this. It's just going to get much worse. Okay, so now the thing too here about this Lebanon pagers thing, this is the huge thing here. This is the, hopefully you made it this far, because if you didn't, you're going to miss the big thing. Okay, so what happened was somehow the Israeli military, the Israeli defense somehow supplied the terrorists in Lebanon with these pagers and put into them small pencil eraser-sized explosives that were somehow programmed to detonate after the owner of the pager would press a couple of buttons. And they would be pressing these buttons to stop the pager from buzzing. So they programmed the pagers to all buzz. They sent out the signal to buzz the pagers, and you had to do something with the pager to stop it from buzzing, which then triggered the explosions. I don't know how any more details than that, but that's how it happened. But this is all symbolism. Oh, and the reason why the terrorists decided to use pagers is that they thought that the Israeli government could track them with their cell phones. And this is all symbolism for the coming tracking of true Christians on their cell phones, the dissidents, and coming after them and seeking them like, as they call them today even, domestic terrorists. That's what the media has been propagandizing people to think of these dissidents as domestic terrorists. This is where it's all headed very soon. And so that's what's being communicated here through God's signs here with the explosion of these pagers on the day of P. Diddy's indictment. Okay? It's communicating the tracking of these people, the dissidents, the domestic terrorists. Okay? Now also, the communication of the phone, this was a signal that was sent to the pagers. And that is because those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist will be sent a signal through 5G frequencies that will trigger the components that are inside them that were delivered through the thing that will induce mass demonic possession. It will trigger delta brainwave frequencies in the brain, which will facilitate demonic possession of these people. It will be a zombie pandemic. This is also what's described in Bible prophecy. These people will seek death and will not find it. That's a zombie, as it says in Bible prophecy. But as the Bible says, Satan is the prince of the power of the air, and that's why this will all happen through frequencies through the air. It's also, by the way, why Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. It's because of the prince of the power of the air. Now, this is also alluded to with P. Diddy's video, because as I mentioned earlier, the opening of the video involves Danny DeVito as a journalist for Chase TV, talking about how P. Diddy's character was contestant number 5 and had been running for 5 seasons. It's all a hint at 5G frequencies and mass demonic possession, which is described in the 5th trumpet judgment in the book of Revelation, which is in chapter 9, which is hinted at with the number 45, because 45 is the 9th triangular number. In a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 9th row is 45. Also, 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. 45 is a multiple of 9 also. And so Revelation chapter 9 is being pointed to, and it all involves this coming mass demonic possession, the mark of the Antichrist, which is the pointy thing. Monkeypox is a part of this, but people have already taken the mark of the Antichrist for the CVD disease. And what's coming is the 5G frequencies that will be sent, these people will be sent the signals for this, which is why we have the prophetic significance of the signals being sent to the pagers to trigger, activate the explosive. The 5G frequencies will trigger, activate the components that are in the people after having taken the thing that will trigger delta brainwaves and demonic possession. Okay, so there's more to this story here that needs to be told. Some more revelation regarding what God is communicating has come to light. Let's start with this. Danny DeVito is in the beginning of the Victory music video. This is very important. This Victory music video of P. Diddy's, it's even more important than I thought, and I already knew it was important. So Danny DeVito stars in the video, and the beginning of it, he is a journalist touting or saying with great emphasis that contestant number 5 had been in the show for 5 seasons. This might hint at the 5 plus 5 days. I think it does, actually, because as Danny DeVito is saying all of this, in the video, images are overlaid with P. Diddy escaping an explosion. And that's why it's relevant that 5 plus 5 days after these signs on September 17th is the date it is predicted that there will be an explosion in New York City with the dirty bombs. The Victory video is appropriate for this. Okay. Now, in the beginning of the victory video, P. Diddy receives a message, "Get out," on his pager. That's the message on the pager. I believe I explained how this is amazing that this video begins with P. Diddy using a pager, given that the day that he was indicted was the day of the exploding pagers in Lebanon. I explained all that, right? But the message is so important. The pager says, "Get out." And that's when he gets out of the plane that he's in, and then it explodes. All right? Okay, so the date of the, so Jordan Peele is a famous comedian, actor, and director. And he made a movie, Get Out. I haven't seen it, but I've read about it on Wikipedia, and the accolades are high. The movie won and was nominated for many awards, and it's been said on Wikipedia that some say it's one of the best films of the 21st century, which I find extremely hard to believe. By the way, I think it's woke culture because he's black. I don't know this for sure though, but just from reading the plot, it doesn't sound like a very interesting movie, if you ask me. I have a hard time believing that this movie is so great. I could be wrong though, and also it's a psychological thriller. When do psychological thrillers like this become the best movies ever or something? I don't know. Anyway, just, disregard my opinion there. It just sounds a little fishy to me. But if I am correct, it's also Spirit of Antichrist in itself. Okay, so anyway, this guy Jordan Peele made this movie, Get Out. And the movie also is about a black man in a relationship with a white woman, which would be, I think, maybe why they would want to give him so many awards. Anyway, so the movie Get Out, though, is, as I'm going to explain, hinted at with the pager message that P. Diddy received, "Get out." So the movie came out 91 months and 3 days before the predicted explosions in New York City. And I just explained how that's relevant given the explosion in the P. Diddy video and the explosions of the pagers in Lebanon, all that, right? So 91 months and 3 days is relevant because it's a number that it hints at 913, which hints at the 913th word in Strong's Greek Concordance, which is the word Barak. Okay, so this, in other words, God uses in his signs 913 as symbolism to identify Barack Obama. Now, the date 927 also hints at the Antichrist because this is the verse, the Daniel chapter 9:27 verse is the verse in this most central prophecy in the Bible, Daniel chapter 9, that regards the period of the Antichrist, the 27th verse. In other words, God uses this pairing of 9 and 27 in his signs as symbolism for the Antichrist, which is why it would be relevant to have this connection that symbolizes Obama to this date, 927. Okay, now also Revelation 9:11 day. This is an astounding one here too, because as I was explaining, this signal that triggered the pagers to explode is hinting at the coming frequencies that will trigger mass demonic possession of those who have taken the pointy thing, and there will be a symbolic beginning to this, what I call Revelation 9:11 day. And that's why it's astounding that we have this 91 months and 10 days, which hints at 9/11 from the release of Get Out. Now, this context of Get Out isn't Get Out of New York City like this is, but this would be the rapture, because the day before will be the rapture. And so God's faithful will be getting out in time for this date, this symbolic beginning of the Antichrist period and the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm and mass demonic possession, etc., demons pretending to be aliens, etc., etc. So that's why, and this, the passage, Revelation 9:11, is symbolic of all of this, and that's why 91 months and 10 days to this Revelation 9:11 day. Okay, so that's amazing. That's confirmation of that what I'm explaining here is correct. Okay, Peel is 45. We already have explained in this video the significance of 45 and it being connected to P. Diddy for that matter. Right? Well, I don't need to explain it again. I explained it already. Peel started out, his breakout role was on the show Mad TV. This is clearly a designed hint from God to point to the madness and the demonic possession that's symbolized by Revelation 9:11. The 9th chapter, the 5th trumpet in Revelation chapter 9:11 alludes to all of what to the coming mass demonic possession, and that'll be triggered by the frequencies, the prince of the power of the air, the 5G frequencies. But that's why Peel got his start in Mad TV, and he is now 45 years old at the time that this is all relevant, given the connections to P. Diddy and the number 45. Mad TV was a show on Fox. Fox is symbolic of 666, the number of the Antichrist, Satan's representative. Because F is the 6th letter, O is the 15th letter, 1 plus 5 is 6, and X is the 24th letter of the alphabet, and 2 plus 4 is 6. So Mad TV on 666, this is clearly more confirmation. Oh, and the thing is, the movie Get Out is about possession. I should have mentioned that beforehand. The movie Get Out that we are talking about here with these connections to Revelation 9:11 day, the release of the movie, that's because this movie is about possession. It's a strange concept. It's a high concept movie. And anyway, that's what the movie is about. It's about people possessing people. And that's because it's symbolism for what we are talking about here with the coming mass demonic possession that will be there, that for which there will be a symbolic beginning on October 4th. By the way, October 4th hints at Revelation 10, verse 4, and the 7 thunders, if you care to look that up. Okay, so Get Out was shot in 23 days in Fairhope, in the 22nd state. This confirms the 903 Obama connections, 913 I should say, which is symbolic of Obama. Fairhope hints at Obama. His big slogan in his election campaign was hope. Okay, and 23 is the number that God uses to symbolize Obama, the basketball president who wore jersey number 23. Also, 2 divided by 3 is 0.666, the number of the Antichrist. But also, the movie was shot in 23 days. That's because the SHOTs are symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. The things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the things that come out of things and go into people. And the things that come out of things and go into people changes a person's chromosomes, and there are 23 pairs of them. That's another reason why the number 23 is symbolic of Obama, who is the Antichrist. Okay, now God pairs, 23 is the 9th prime number, 45 is the 9th triangular number. The movie cost $4.5 million. I explained earlier how Apocalypse Now cost $45 million. Get Out cost $4.5 million, which is a confirmation because it was shot in 23 days, and That's the ninth prime and ninth triangular numbers for you. Okay, but also, it won awards at the 90th Academy Awards because 45 is the ninth triangular, 23 is the ninth prime, and the movie was celebrated at the 90th Academy Awards. That's astounding. Furthermore, God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 frequently in his signs to confirm the signs and connections. Because the basketball president who wore 23 became president in 09. It was also, it was nominated for 2+3 awards at the 23rd Critics' Choice Awards. But that's a total of 5, and this is a hint at 5G as well. Because again, this movie is about possession. And see, I didn't know that until I got down here. I was always speculating that this nomination for 5 awards at the prophetic 23rd Critics' Choice Awards in the same year as the 90th pairing of 9 and 23 again, Academy Awards, this number 5 means something because it's the 23rd Critics' Choice Awards, and I know God's signs from having studied it from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 2 times 3 years. I know by now that, if we're talking about a 23rd Critics' Choice Awards and this this movie being celebrated like it is, then therefore this number 5 is relevant. But I didn't know when I wrote this that the movie, in fact, the plot of it is about possession. I was just starting to read on Wikipedia about the movie, and I hadn't read the plot of the movie yet. All right? Now, and so it connects with the 9/11 number to Revelation 9/11 day, which is again the symbolic beginning of the coming mass demonic possession that will be facilitated through 5G frequencies and is alluded to in the 5th trumpet in the judgments in the book of Revelation. Okay, so Get Out was nominated for 4 awards at the 90th Academy Awards and nominated for 5 awards at the 23rd Critics' Choice Awards. That's a clear 45. It's also a total of 9 nominations, but that's a 45 for you because God pairs 23 and 9 together to confirm his signs and connections. And so when we pair the 90th and 23rd Critics' Choice Awards and the 90th Academy Awards, we get a 4 and a 5, which gives us 45, and it cost $4.5 million. This ties it all to P. Diddy as well. All right, in addition to the second coming, 45, and the reciprocal of 45 is 0.22, hints at the mark of the Antichrist because the number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. Right? If I didn't explain it already, the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the book of Ezekiel, and the mark of and that would have been a Tav mark, the last, and the Tav letter is the last and 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. Okay, and so it is also the 9th triangular number, and that's symbolic of judgment because the number 9 is the most important number in God's signs. It's from the Bible. It symbolizes God's judgment. And so 45 isn't only a symbol because of its reciprocal symbolism for the second coming, but it is also symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist. The 5 nominations at the 23rd Academy Award, Critics' Choice Awards hints at the 5th trumpet in Revelation 9. Pager signals are frequencies, which makes all of this point to 5G frequencies. The frequency bands of 5G begin at the 450 megahertz level, and that's what 45 hints at as well. In other words, 5G is symbolized by 45 because the first level of frequencies is the 450 megahertz level. So when we're talking about the number 45 symbolizing the mark of the Antichrist because of its reciprocal, we're also talking about 5G frequencies. That's hinted at with the number 45. We've already explained how P. Diddy and the explosions of the pagers triggered by frequencies is all tied to this. And now we can see here, because it was just learned, that the number that symbolizes 5G frequencies its symbolic beginning frequency level is the 450 megahertz level. And the first level goes up to 2 times 3 gigahertz. That's another 23 and 45 for you, by the way. So this director, producer, Jordan Peele, has made 3 movies. And they all are prophetic, the names. Get Out, Us, and Nope. Get out means get out. It means also get out of the U.S., not only get out of Manhattan where the bombs are going to explode on the 27th. And Nope is a play on hope, Barack Obama. God is saying no hope. There is no hope for America, which is why it needs to be destroyed now. That's why God is saying get out of the U.S., because there is no hope. And that's why the Antichrist and his slogan, hope. Okay, so I think I've gone through it now. That's what I needed to add here. All right. It turns out that the Lord was by no means finished here. There is a lot more, and it's extremely interesting and very important. We are talking about the signs that occurred on September 17th, just a refresher here. We were talking about the indictment of P. Diddy, for example. September 17th was the 22nd anniversary. And by the way, again, we are talking about the connections from P. Diddy pointing to things, pointy things. Again, P. Diddy was indicted for sex parties with drugs, and I just have explained already how it's all connecting to the mark of the Antichrist and the pointy things. Okay, and so again, I think I've mentioned it probably. The number 22 in God's signs is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist in Ezekiel, in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, would have been a Tav mark, and the Tav letter is the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. So the mark of the Antichrist is symbolized by the number 22. Furthermore, the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes. A pair of chromosomes, or rather one chromosome, is made up of 2 arms. A pair of chromosomes is therefore made up of 4 arms. Right? Okay, so that's also, by the way, why the Lord uses an X as in his signs for symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist. In an X, there are 4 lines that meet each other in the middle, if you will. 2 plus 2. Well, anyway. So, September 17th was the 22nd anniversary. Well, first of all, the date, as I explained earlier, September 17th, is Constitution Day. And the Antichrist is the unconstitutional president. Who will become the president again and serve a second presidency. Okay? And that president was president from 2009 until 2017, which is why God designed that Constitution Day be the date 9/17, to point to the unconstitutional president and identify the Antichrist. So this 9/17 date in 2024, with all of these signs that I've explained so far regarding the mark of the Antichrist, ultimately, and the number 22 symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. This 9/17 date in 2024 is exactly 22 years after President Bush's infamous "fool me twice" gaffe. So I'm just going to play a clip to refresh your memory regarding this prophetic sign, as we now know. This "fool me twice" gaffe 22 years exactly earlier. President Bush made his fool me twice gaffe exactly 22 years earlier on the date 9/17 in 2002.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled.
All right, now as you just saw, a part of this gaffe is President Bush mentioning where he is, Tennessee. This is important. There is a reason this is designed by God. It is because God uses this, the state of Tennessee, in his signs. One reason is that it is the 4 times 4th state to join the Union, the 16th state to join the Union, and God uses 16 because it is 4 times 4 to hint at the 44th president. And so way back then, when President Bush made this gaffe, God was communicating, revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So this is a prophetic sign that communicates how the masses were fooled into electing the first affirmative action president, Barack Obama, the 44th president. The unconstitutional president. That's why people were fooled. And they were fooled because they wanted to be fooled. I need to make that very, very clear. It is spiritual, and these people wanted to be fooled. They love lies. They are followers of Satan. That's the biblical worldview. Satan is the ruler of this world, and until one is liberated through Christ, they are of Satan, and that's why they love the lies of Satan. And Satan is in the process of manifesting the Antichrist kingdom. And so these people are falling in line because they love it. Spiritually, they don't know what's going on. They're fools, but they love it. The media never vetted this guy, Barack Obama. His whole rise was all affirmative action the whole way. Him even getting into Harvard, him being elected the president of the Law magazine, all of that was nonsense. He never wrote one article. If you know the story of Barack Obama, he is one big lie. And he is a radical communist. That's where he comes from, his background. Bill Ayers got him into Harvard, and Bill Ayers is the radical communist. They're buddies way back when. From when Barack Obama, even before Barack Obama met Bill Ayers, he was a fan. It was like for him meeting the Beatles. They met when Barack Obama was at Columbia University. Anyway, I'm not going to get into more of the history. You need to watch, actually, the documentary Dreams from My Real Father. That's the name of the documentary. highly, highly recommended. The person that put that together is brilliant, and that's because he has a solid worldview as well. He was able to understand. Anyway, the truth is that Barack Obama has this past, and he has fooled the masses. The reason why he got into politics in the first place was to subvert the American system. This was what communists want to do. They hate America. They want to bring it down. That's the communist ideology isn't coherent. It's just filled with hate. That's the truth. And Barack Obama has a bad past. He wasn't only abandoned by his father. Well, okay, so Dreams from My Real Father. You need to watch the documentary. But the truth is, Barack Obama's real father is Frank Marshall Davis. And Barack Obama knows this. Bill Ayers and him concocted the book, the autobiography, which Bill Ayers has said he wrote. And that's not a conspiracy theory. You can find video of him saying that. Bill Ayers concocted this whole multicultural angle for Barack Obama because they knew that he wouldn't get far if he was just a regular African American. Okay, so they went with the Barack Obama story, but the Barack Obama story dates back to his mother getting knocked up at the age of 18 by Frank Marshall Davis. Barack Obama's grandfather, his mother's father, was an FBI agent assigned to Hawaii to monitor the communist activities led by Frank Marshall Davis. That's how his daughter and Frank Marshall Davis's paths crossed. And so to protect his job, at the time, there was Barack Obama Sr. having been brought in as a student from Kenya as part of a CIA program. I think the grandfather worked for the CIA, not the FBI. It was part of a CIA program to combat the growing communist movement in Kenya, to bring in these Kenyan students into the U.S. And Barack Obama Sr. was part of this program, and that's how Barack Obama's grandfather got the idea to use him, Barack Obama Sr., as a reason for how to explain how Anne Stanley Dunham, Barack Obama's mother, got pregnant. And they had a fake marriage, and the deal for Barack Obama Sr. was that in exchange he would be able to complete his doctorate in the U.S., which is why the two never were together. Barack Obama Sr., while he was studying to get his doctorate, was never living with Barack Obama's mother. They weren't really married. But to fool immigration, they had the birth in Kenya. That made it look real. That's why Barack Obama was, in fact, born in Kenya. Okay? So Barack Obama went with all of this, with Bill Ayers. The truth is, though, Barack Obama did have a relationship with Frank Marshall Davis as an adolescent. Frank Marshall Davis was Barack Obama's mentor. Frank Marshall Davis was a radical communist. Frank Marshall Davis was from Chicago, which is why after the May 19th Communist Organization was disbanded, which Barack Obama was a member of in 1985, Barack Obama moved to Chicago in 85 to follow in his father's footsteps and begin his street activism in Chicago, which is what communists do. So that's a little bit of background for Barack Obama there for you. So anyway, the point is that he has fooled the masses. He is the Trojan horse. He is communism. He, while president, installed all kinds of bad communist red diaper babies. Okay? Baby boomers that were children of the communists from the 1930s. There's all kinds of... So Barack Obama laid the groundwork for what we are going through right now. He installed in positions of power and in these agencies these communists, and we are now in a coup. Currently there is a coup unfolding. It's a slow coup. It's unfolding over the past few years. It's a totalitarian takeover. Okay, and so Barack Obama fooled the masses that were naive and had no wisdom, because as the Bible says, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. America departed from God, especially the left and the Democrat Party, and now there is no wisdom. They are like immature little sheep that don't know where they're going. And they were ripe for Satan's takeover and the destruction of the nation, which is designed by God because the nation has departed God. And so Satan is being allowed to take over. And that takeover has happened because the people are fools. People on the left are complete fools. Joseph Stalin even said that Democrats, the left, the liberals are useful idiots. Those are his words. Because he knew that it ultimately leads to communism. And so America has lost its values after having lost its foundation, the values from the Bible. It has lost all of that, and now it has no wisdom, and it was susceptible, is what I'm describing here, to this being fooled by Barack Obama, but really being fooled by Satan. The book, by the way, Dreams from My Father, in it, Barack Obama describes a dream that he had while traveling as a young adult to Kenya as part of this propaganda for the book that him and Bill Ayers had concocted to get him to help his political career. He anyway went to Kenya and had a dream while he was traveling in Kenya, and that dream, although he doesn't know it, is a prophetic dream from God that reveals that he is the Antichrist. Okay, I'm not going to get into the dream, but so, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So anyway, the point is that America is about to be fooled twice. Barack Obama will become again the unconstitutional president because the 25th Amendment will be used to appoint Barack Obama as the vice president. The Supreme Court will go along with this. It'll be from Satan. The Supreme Court is also compromised. The Chief Justice is compromised. The left, the communists have something on him, and he and I'm sure others will go along with this. Okay? And this will be how Barack Obama will overcome the 22nd Amendment, which restricts someone from being elected to the office more than twice. He will be appointed instead. This is also why the 22nd year connection here from the fool me twice gaffe. Also, this is also symbolism. God is communicating getting fooled twice regarding the mark of the Antichrist, the pointy things. There will be another round of it. That doesn't mean, though, that the first round wasn't the mark of the Antichrist. There's going to be another round of the mark of the Antichrist, though. And I assume, given what God has been communicating through his signs, it has to do with monkeypox. Okay? And there will be a promise of immortality. The first lie ever told in the Garden of Eden to Eve will become the last lie of the age. There will be a promise through these pointy things, this TRANS human technology of age reversal and immortality. And this will also be, in some way, a spiritual thing. There will be demons pretending to be aliens, and they will promote New Age spirituality, which the vast majority of people, not only in America, but the world have today. If you ask, like, polls show that really there are only 13% or so of the population in Western nations that are actually atheists. The vast majority aren't Christian, though. If you ask them, do they believe in God, they would say yes, but he is an energy. He is a collective consciousness. He is the universe itself. Never mind that science contradicts that, because we have a creation moment, we have the Big Bang, and on in terms of scientific evidence for intelligent design. They're not interested in that, though, because they love the lies. They do not want there to be a personal being God. They love the idea of an impersonal being God that they are a part of, and in some way are God themselves, as the Eastern and New Age philosophy says. The demons pretending to be aliens will be promoting this. As 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 tells us, we get the deception that we ask for, right? Speaking of being fooled, the purpose of aliens in itself is a test of faith, because although the majority of quote-unquote Christians in polls indicate that they believe that it's possible that there are aliens, it means that they are in fact not Christians. And that's the point of this coming deception of demons pretending to be aliens. It's because of this. Because if one has a biblical worldview, man is the center of God's creation, and earth is the center of the universe. But importantly, God became a man, Jesus Christ, and died for the sins of man. And therefore didn't hopscotch around the universe, taking the form of other alien life forms and dying on crosses on other planets. That's absurd. Although there actually are Christian so-called quote-unquote theologians that are trying to defend such a theory. So anyway, that's what's coming. There will be a more fooling of the masses. Okay? Fool me twice is also an allusion to getting fooled a second time with the mark of the Antichrist. Okay? But it's also a second presidency and being fooled by Barack Obama. Now, there's more to say here. Also, by the way, Bush was the second President Bush. So from the second President Bush's prophetic sign here, which is his fool me twice gaffe, it is exactly 22 years. As I said, P. Diddy communicated illegal drugs. It connected to the ketamine things, pointy things, and demonic possession, which is ultimately what will happen to those who have taken the pointy thing through the Get Out text, as I mentioned, which brings us to the movie Get Out. The second presidency of Obama, who was president from 2009 to 17. Okay, that's why the 22 years in between these two 9/17 dates. Obama fooled the masses once and will fool many a second time. Twice, fool me twice. The masses were fooled with the pointy things once and will be fooled twice. Okay, that's what God is communicating here. Now, rather than write things up in a nice write-up, I'm just going to go through the thoughts that I wrote down to a friend of mine as they came, and it's amazing. So I wrote, I don't know if it's relevant, but now I do know that it is relevant. But the final out of the Washington W game on July 6th, President Bush's birthday, his 78th birthday, was pitched by player number 777, 7 plus 7 plus 7. And it was 73 days, which hints at 3 sets of 7, before 9/17 in 2024. It was a foul ball tip into the catcher's glove. The player who tipped the ball was number 63, which hints at 3 6s, and 666, the number of the Antichrist. And he played for the Cardinals, which are birds. And this prophetic sign hinted at the coming bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane as she is on her way back to Washington. Hence why the game was played in Washington with the Washington Nationals baseball team on George W.'s birthday. George W. Bush hints at George Washington. The team in baseball, when a team wins, they get a W in the column. They get a W, okay, a win in the record book. That's why this is a prophetic sign. There's so much more to all of this, and July 6th, that's explained in the absolute must-watch Jimmy Carter funeral video. The only video where I talk about the prophetic significance of Jimmy Carter's funeral, that video must be watched. All right, so I'm not going to get into much more regarding the significance of July 6th, 2024. I'm just saying, though, that God has communicated this connection because July 6th, 2024 was about George W., as explained in the other video. But it connects to this 22nd anniversary of George W. and his fool me twice gaffe. Okay? Actually, I think the connection is valid. Pitchers on the pitching mound symbolize the Antichrist on the Temple Mount. The connection from the bird strikeout connects to P. Diddy and his video Victory that begins with P. Diddy in the wreckage of a plane in the Steel City. Okay, again, the sign is the W, the win for the Washington Nationals. It's a victory, and it connects with 73 days to the signs on 9/17 that involve P. Diddy that point to his Victory music video. All right? And again, in that video, it begins with P. Diddy in the wreckage of a plane in a city street. The city streets where Harris's plane will crash after a bird strike will be in St. Louis, which is why in the game, it was the St. Louis Cardinals player number 63 that foul tipped the ball. By the way, a foul tip, in baseball, a foul is when the batter hits the ball, but it like tips the ball and doesn't go into play. Tips the ball into the crowd, into the stands or something. That's a foul. But God is using this as a play on words because birds are also fouls. And the game ended with a strikeout, but the last strike was a foul tip, meaning the batter tipped the ball and then it deflected into the catcher's glove, which recorded the out. Okay? Because when the ball is tipped by a batter and then caught, that batter is out. If the catcher hadn't caught the ball, the game would have still continued. So it was a foul tip that ended the game. But importantly, it was the St. Louis Cardinals, and this was the giveaway that this is a prophetic sign because Kamala Harris is predicted to die due to a bird strike in St. Louis. Not only that, though, her plane is predicted to crash into the baseball stadium in St. Louis. Okay. The player who struck out plays for St. Louis. The catcher who caught the foul tip, bird foul ball is player number 20. The number 20 would be how God would communicate the 44th president and his second presidency in one number, because 20, as in the number 2, is 4 times 4 plus 4. And God repeats the number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. So this hints at the second presidency for the 44th president. This W for Washington, like I was explaining, the victory, the W, was on George W.'s birthday. And again, George W. hints at George Washington. It was his 78th birthday, and 7 times 8 equals 56, which is 7 plus 7 times 7, 3 sets of 7. God uses this. For example, it was 56 passengers on the second plane on 9/11 because the tower that collapsed was 110 stories, and Joshua, who led the Israelites, died at the age of 110, and they marched around the walls of security, symbolic 3 sets of 7, before they collapsed in God's judgment. Okay. So, which may confirm the picture's number 7 plus 7 plus 7. Oh, and the W was the victory, okay? Like I was saying, points to the music video Victory. That is the point. The sign was the W, which stands for win or victory. And this connects to P. Diddy's Victory video. The picture's number could have been 73, but 21 equals 7 plus 7 plus 7. And this connects with 73 days to 917. This confirms it. Oh, and so here's the thing. George Washington, God has been pointing to in his signs, including the events of 9/11. And George Washington was born on the date 2/22. So that's why we have the 22 years connection from the George W, as in George Washington, sign. From the fool me twice sign, which is a 2, we have 22 years, as in 2/22, the date that George Washington was born. That's why, for example, exactly 222 months after 9/11 was the day, March 11th, 2020, when the World Health Organization officially declared the CVD disease to be a pandemic, and Trump delivered his Oval Office speech regarding the CVD disease, which ended precisely as the clock on the live TV news screen ticked 9/11. March 11th, 2020 was a date that I was predicting since November of 2019 to be the date of something very big, bad, and world-changing, and I wasn't saying that about any other date. And I knew this because of the 222 months connection. Because through the 9/11 events, God pointed to George Washington, because Lower Manhattan was the capital before Washington, D.C., and George Washington was inaugurated in Federal Hall on Wall Street, and afterwards marched down Wall Street, as in the walls of security that were marched around by the Israelites before they collapsed in God's judgment. Then George Washington went into Trinity Chapel, where he consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings, which is what happened temporarily on 9/11. And the Trinity Chapel is now today known as the Miracle Chapel, because it was the only building at Ground Zero that didn't suffer any damage, not even a broken window. Okay, and on and on. So that's why, or how, God pointed to George Washington through the 9/11 events, and George Washington was born on the date 2/22. And that's again why we have the 22 years from the fool me twice gaffe from George W, as in George Washington. Wow. Okay, so also on September 1st, 2019, which was a date that hinted at 9/11, it was player number 2 and number 22, and only these two players, who were lifted up for the Simba Cam, which is a play on the iconic scene from the movie The Lion King, in which baby Simba is lifted up for all to see. Fans in the stadium lift up their babies or pets for the camera, for the whole stadium to see. It's the Simba Cam. On the day of, and it was the same day as the flash flood in Hell's Gate Canyon National Park, the location that inspired the movie The Lion King, in southwest Kenya, which is actually also right near where Barack Obama was born. And so that is the point, because he is the Simba. That's where he was born. The movie The Lion King, about his birthplace, right? In fact, Barack Obama recognized this and used the clip from the movie in a joke at the White House press correspondence dinner in 2011, which was a prophetic sign that also identified him as being born in Kenya. Long story. Well, anyway, this day, September 1st, 2019, we had these two Lion King signs, because again, the Simba Cam is from the Lion King, but also the place of the flash flood, Hell's Gate Canyon National Park, inspired the movie The Lion King. 7 people died. They were Christians, by the way. And this was the same day that the Pope was late for Mass by 7 minutes because he was stuck in an elevator due to the power outage going out. September 1st, 2019 was exactly 4 times 40 years after the Carrington event that knocked out the power in the telegraph communication system, and that's a hint at the coming knocking out of America's power grid due to the coming solar flare coronal mass ejection. And that's why, anyway, okay. So the voice of the Lion King delivered the speech by, the voice of the Lion King, James Earl Jones, read the poem about baseball being a homecoming right at the opening of the broadcast of Game 3 of the 1989 World Series. And right after that, the power was knocked out in the broadcast booth by the earthquake. And September 1st, 2019 was the 30th anniversary of the author of that poem, the 7th Commissioner of Baseball, and James Earl Jones was born 7 years and 77 days before that, before the birth of the author of the poem, before the birth of the 7th Commissioner of Baseball. And that's because of what I'm saying about the metaphor God is using, a lion's roar for the coming eruption on the sun that will knock out America's power grid. And the 7th Commissioner of Baseball, his death was 30 years exactly before this Lion King signs. And in the Bible, 30 years is symbolic of a king. All right. And the reason for pointing to the 7th Commissioner of Baseball also is because God is pointing to the 1st Commissioner of Baseball, who was given unchecked power in a moment of crisis because of the 1919 Chicago Black Sox World Series cheating scandal, which hints at Barack Obama from Chicago. And the power was given to the 1st Commissioner of Baseball, unchecked power over every person in baseball in a moment of crisis, 666 days after the ratification of the 6+6+6th Amendment, which restricted people from buying and selling alcohol. This is because the Antichrist will be given unchecked power in a moment of crisis and will restrict people's ability to buy and sell food who have not taken the mark of the Antichrist. Okay. So, now back to the subject of this video. On 9/17/2024, the 200th home run hit by player number 22. This same player number 22, who previously played for the Washington Nationals, and the day when him, number 22 and number 2, were lifted up for the SimbaCam, which hinted at George Washington, who was born on the date 2/22. Okay, now God is using this same player again here, years later, when he hit the 200th home run, player number 22, okay? And he hit it against the Blue Jays, which hints at bird strike. Actually, he didn't hit it against the Blue Jays. This is an error. I'll explain in a second. Okay, but anyway, this confirms the connection to the foul tip by the Cardinals against Washington 73 days earlier, because they're both baseball signs, and this guy used to play for the Washington Nationals, and that's when the prophetic sign of that was the Washington Nationals year, the year of the SimbaCam. That's the year that they won the World Series. For the first time in 50 years in their franchise. 50 years is extremely prophetic in the Bible. And the franchise began in Montreal, which is French for Royal Mount, which hints at the Temple Mount, and pictures on the pitching mound are symbolic of the Antichrist on the Temple Mount in Bible prophecy. And the prophetic last out, which God uses, especially in World Series, is the final prophetic out was from pitcher number 44, as in the 44th president. And he pitched against player number 23, which is also the number that symbolizes the Antichrist, because 2 divided by 3 is 0.666, but also the Antichrist basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school. And he played, the pitch was 88 miles per hour, which God is using to hint at the movie Back to the Future, which was a prophecy from God, because the plot of the movie is about a prophecy and predicting the future. And it was, in fact, a prophecy. If you watch the movie, it's clearly a prophecy predicting the events of 9/11. As explained in another video. Okay, so this player number 22 hit his 200th home run, okay? And this was, okay, and so let me see. Let's just continue. Okay, so it wasn't against the Blue Jays. The 200th home run for player number 22 was hit in the 42nd state, the state of Washington. This was the 22nd anniversary of George W.'s Fool Me Twice gaffe. Okay, so the 200, and he played for Washington. He was assigned because of the Washington Nationals, right? So again here, we have the 200th home run for player number 22, and I've just been explaining the relevance of the 22nd anniversary of the Fool Me Twice gaffe for George W., and that's because George Washington was born on the date 2/22. Not only this, though, the 42nd state where he hit the home run is the state of Washington. Okay, but it was the 42nd home run, all right? Now, the Lord uses the number 42 in his signs because from Bible prophecy and in the Bible, the number 42 symbolizes slaughter. Every instance of the number 42 in the Bible is in context of slaughter. There were the 42 children that were slaughtered by the bear. There were the 42 that were slaughtered at the pit by King Jehu. And there were 42 cities that people could take refuge in if they had committed manslaughter. And in Bible prophecy, the Antichrist is associated with slaughter, and his number is the number 42, symbolizes the period of the Antichrist. So we are talking about the Antichrist, but of course this is also communicating that he will be in Washington, the seat of power. Now also, what's significant about this, that God did to highlight the fact that this home run was hit in the state of Washington, the 42nd state, is that with this home run, this player had achieved another milestone besides the 200th home run milestone. He also with this home run, had hit a home run in every baseball stadium in the major leagues, which was significant given that he's only 25 years old. Okay? All right. Okay, as I'm saying here, this is the Paul Simon sign we were looking for. No, that's a different one. That's something else. So the player had 3 milestones on this day with this home run. His 200th home run was also his 40th home run of the season. And with this, he became the player to hit in every baseball stadium a home run. All right, so the 200th home run for player number 22. Oh, and it was hit off of the home run was hit off of pitcher number 22 to top it all off. All right, so the more 222 there, right? George Washington, right? The pitcher for the team from the state of Washington was wearing number 22. You know what? I bet if we look back at that, the pitch count was probably 2-2, 2 balls, 2 strikes, probably 2 outs in the inning. I wouldn't be surprised at all. All right, now feel free to look that up if you like. But anyway, the fact that he hit for 3 milestones gives us a 2 and a 3, and 23. 2 divided by 3 is 0.666, which is the number of the Antichrist, which is identified through the number 23 as the basketball president who wore jersey 23 in high school. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.